From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Alexis, codenamed Doc Holliday Jackson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. It is the top of the week as we are barreling toward either the end of civilization, maybe World War III, definitely Passover and Easter. If you celebrate those, we hope that you have a heck of a time, and we hope that you enjoy the very strange things we have found to share with you today. It turns out that people are successfully faking being federal agents for a little while. It turns out that in a roundabout way, we've learned there are not bad health effects from getting almost 100 COVID vaccine doses, and someone got pregnant by an extraterrestrial, apparently. Those
Maybe.
Dang, bury the lead.
Well, those are the stories. Those are the stories, and a lot
They're
of
all pretty good leads. I don't think you buried anything.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Well, this is what we love to do at the top of the week. It's kind of a cognitive calisthenics exercise for us before we dive into even stranger stuff. But we've got some doozies for you here today, fellow conspiracy realists. And maybe we start off by answering the question so many of us have asked: how long could I get away with faking to be a U.S. federal agent? Why go through all those background checks, all those training sessions, all that lost time? You know, you got stuff to do. There's so much great TV out. Why can't you just fake being a federal agent and then watch the rest of Severance? It's a question someone tried to answer.
That's right. And the answer is about 2 years. Maybe a little over 2 years. So let's go to The Guardian, to an article that was posted last Friday. And let's just go into it. It's titled, "Fake U.S. Federal Agent Claimed Ties to Pakistani Intelligence, Prosecutors Say." This is the main article I'm going to be reading from today, and then there's 2 or 3 others. This one is going to give you the facts. On Wednesday last week, well, as we record this, Wednesday, the 6th of April, 2 men were arrested, Aryan Taherzadeh and Haider Ali. These 2 men were, as Ben said, impersonating federal agents, in this case, special agents within the Department of Homeland Security. And, you know, you're not supposed to do that. I hope everybody's aware. You're not supposed to impersonate agents or police officers or any law enforcement whatsoever at any level if you are not, in fact, an agent or officer with enforceable powers.
I would say that could get you in some hot water in certain situations. I mean, it's a form of fraud, right?
It is. It has certainly gotten these guys in trouble, and it also depends on what you do with that fake power that you're wielding. And in this case, these guys are in trouble for several things. So not only were these 2 guys pretending to be agents, right? They were also doing weird stuff like providing favors for actual people in law enforcement. In this case, the Secret Service. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. They provided, quote, lucrative favors to members of the Secret Service, including one agent on the security detail of First Lady Jill Biden. So these guys managed to pretend and get very, very close to actual power within the United States. Rather troubling, I think, just on the surface, just knowing that that's what occurred, right, with these 2 guys. But it doesn't end there. They weren't just pretending to be federal agents and hanging out with Secret Service agents. They were doing things like getting those Secret Service agents free rent at their apartment complex where they also lived. There were 4 of them. And these are not cheap apartments. These apartments cost around $48,000 yearly. Calculate, oh my gosh. Those are nice apartments. There's several unnamed favors that are in here, apparently, within the affidavit. I'm going to read from a CNBC article here, and we'll talk about it in a second. But it says, on the affidavit for these two guys, it was as early as February 2020. They were pretending to be these DHS agents. They were also carrying insignias and firearms, like legit firearms that an agent would truly carry as part of that deception.
Glocks, yeah.
Exactly. They weren't just telling people and introducing themselves as agents, right? They're wearing the thing that's supposed to let you know that they're real and carrying the actual firearm that an agent would have. That's freaky to me. That's feels like deep cover.
It does. It's also interesting, just on this note, that we're establishing something that makes them look a little bit different in comparison to your typical fraudster for attention. Like the kid who was faking being a doctor a few years back. He just really wanted to pretend to be a doctor. But these folks, they would look legit. They could talk the talk. Like a Glock 19, a 6R 229. Those are firearms you would expect an agent to have. And just the sheer amount of money that they were moving, it sounds like they had some support of something. And I think we'll get to that in a second, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, as the title of the article stated from The Guardian, one of these guys, Ali, the man with the last name Ali, he claims to have some kind of ISI connection. That's the Pakistani intelligence service for the country Pakistan. And if it's actually, who knows if that's really what it is? I guess we'll find out as these guys are, charged and they maybe go to trial, or how this thing turns out. Because it doesn't seem like they had diplomatic immunity, because if they did, I don't think we would be this far, right? We wouldn't have a ton of stories going out about all of this with all the details.
I would just not. I think that stuff would be redacted or held back in some way.
It would just be put to bed. It does feel more like spycraft, or what do we call it, Ben? Tradecraft. There we go.
Is that the kinder, gentler way of talking about it? The more innocuous. Yeah,
it is. But there's other weird stuff with this story that doesn't make sense to me, you guys. Both of these dudes tried to become special police officers. One attempted in 2019, but had some misdemeanor conviction dealing with domestic violence, so he was ineligible. The same guy, Taherzada, was able to obtain a commission, this is from the article, as a, quote, unarmed SPO, but he never, went all the way through the process. He didn't send some documents over, so they, took it off the table in 2021, right at the end of the year. And the other person attempted to become an SPO in 2020, Ali, but was denied, quote, based on his prior arrests for an assault of a family member. And, there's also some abduction by force going on there. Interesting stuff. Here's the deal, though. This is kind of where I want to end with this. We said that these guys were living in an apartment complex. We didn't mention yet some of the favors they were doing were giving firearms and other military equipment to the Secret Service agents, or at least that's what they're accused of doing. Within their apartment, they had all kinds of firearms that a regular old citizen should not have, and several other types of military grade gear. Stuff like a kit to be able to break into a home or a residence, the kind of thing where you would actually break into a home rather than just unlocking it and stuff.
What's the difference? You're talking about a lock picking
a breach
kit versus
versus a ramrod.
What is that? A ramrod, or just a more specialized crowbar, essentially, right?
Yeah, I don't know the correct term, but it's like a breach kit or something like that, where it's what you would use to enter a home.
Oh, it's one of those little mini battering rams they use, so they can a single person can operate. Yeah. Mm.
Yep. They also had body armor, all kinds of tactical gear, and surveillance equipment. Lots of surveillance equipment. You imagine these two guys, they're pretending to be who they are. They've got surveillance equipment, all these weapons. They're paying, or at least they've acquired rent, very expensive rent, for 4 Secret Service agents. And also, according to a statement from Taherzada, Ali had, quote, obtained the electronic access codes and a list of all the tenants in the apartment complex, which has hundreds of units, by the way. And these access codes allow tenants to enter their apartments and the amenity areas and operate elevators in the complex. That's according to NBC New York. And that means these guys could have gone into any one of the apartment complexes in that building if they wanted to. And maybe they did. Who knows?
Yeah, it gets shadier and shadier, because I saw that so they were claiming to be DHS, and they very obviously were not. I saw that U.S. Special Police is not a law enforcement agency, and they're the landlord of this apartment complex, the Crossings, I think, just won in court a judgment for more than $222,000 for unpaid rent. Like they were pulling a scam
in five apartments,
including the ones they loaned out to Secret Service agents. They also, Ali at least appears, according to his former friends, to have a track record of being a failed con artist in Missouri. This is interesting because they were able to do a lot of what's called social engineering, hacking through charisma and sending out the right appearance and signals and using the correct nomenclature, which really isn't that hard. You know, it's like we had talked about in a previous episode. One super easy way to get into various venues is to just put on an orange vest and walk around with a clipboard. People think you're doing something. I can't officially tell you that works.
Oh yeah,
but that's like they're doing they're doing a more sophisticated version of that. But Matt, we have to ask: is there any at this point? Is there any kind of indication of what their end game may have been?
That's the big question here. Why? They were driving around in a giant black GMC SUV. They had the insignia, the guns. They met all these people. They're doing all the social engineering. Why? They were at least 1 degree away from the White House. Like, what? Why are they doing this? Is it just keeping tabs?
Domestic terrorism? Is there some sort of larger nefarious end game? Sure is a lot of effort with not a lot of evidence of a goal.
Well, what's the gain? Right? It's not monetary. It's not monetary. They're expending a ton of money. According to statements from Taherzadeh, Ali, the other guy who was younger than Taherzadeh by about 5 years, was bankrolling the whole operation. And like, what?
Play for access?
Why?
That's what it sounds like.
You don't think it's just for kicks? An expensive experiment?
I think the attempt was to sort of insert themselves into privileged circles in the world of intelligence and security. And then maybe they were working on spec. You know, maybe the plan was to later say, we are ISI, we are embedded with the upper echelons of federal security and in the executive branch. Let's see if we can work together. You know what I mean? That's a real go-getter attitude.
Yeah.
Sort of a fishing expedition too, or like a play for leverage.
That makes sense to me. Rationally, I can see that, Ben. The other thing that we didn't even mention here yet is that according to other people who met them, who were kind of coerced by them, or at least were let in the door a little bit to these guys' lives, they demonstrated, according to The Guardian, that they had secure access to what The Guardian states is, quote, Homeland Security computer systems. So somehow they were in the system as well, even though they weren't officially a part of it in any way, and they shouldn't have access.
I love this stuff. And also the claims about not just association with ISI, but some background with like Iran, passports for Iran and Pakistan, stuff that, like, okay, it's distressingly easy to fake some documents. We're going to learn more about that later in the show, actually, but it's tough to fake certain things to a level that will stand against FBI scrutiny. Like, the best way to fake a U.S. passport is to have a U.S. agency make the passport for you. Either create a different persona, but now it's much more common to use the identity of a person who was born and then died. The earlier, the better, because they'll have a social, by which I mean social security number. So whatever they were doing, at least that's the thing about this operation. It seems uneven in its level of competence. There are very basic rookie mistakes they're making, but then there's also stuff that just objectively you got to admire the dance of it. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was these two specifically, Matt, but someone involved knew what they were doing, and they must not have been doing all of it.
Oh, I agree. They also got tipped off just before they got picked up.
Right. Yeah.
And they shipped a bunch of stuff out of their apartment, like right before it happened. So somebody on the inside let them know. Think about that weird position. If you're aware, if you know these guys, you think they're legit, and you hear down the wire somewhere, oh, there's, arrest warrants for these two names. You're like, whoa, wait, they're my neighbors. I know those guys. Like, would you say something?
They let my wife borrow the car. They gave me that neat drone. Come on, man, not Ali.
Yeah. They gave Secret Service agents iPhones. And if you can see, imagine what they did with the security system in their apartment complex. If you give somebody an iPhone and you've preloaded stuff on it, then you've got access to everything that person hears or sees potentially.
Isn't that suspicious as hell? Why would a Secret Service person be offered an iPhone?
Well, it's a special iPhone from DHS. It's
so
hyper secure.
They were masquerading as though they in some way were this was like a legitimate exchange. Oh, you're supposed to be getting this. It wasn't
you still got that
I got this
iPhone
cool
12
thing for you.
You still got that old iPhone 12? Man, you got to get this one. This is the special version.
It comes with all
but surely
games.
those things would be issued by a supervisor or by like a higher up within their direct report situation. To meet a new person who's just like, hey, buddy, check this gadget out. That just seems a little off to me.
Yeah, it would have to be a personal thing. I don't think it would be SOP to hand something like an iPhone to someone. Like if you are in the Secret Service and your supervisor gives you an iPhone, then that's something that you should report. Because again, like as a matter of fact, you know what? We'll just say this, just err on the side of caution. If anybody, no matter how well you know them, if anybody is like, hey, here's a free iPhone, take it if you want, but don't use it, sell it, put it in a different location at least. Because there's a reason they're doing it.
Or wrap it in tinfoil.
Or wrap it in tinfoil, which actually works. Check out our episode.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Impressive. I was not expecting that. I don't think y'all were either. We even talked off the air how we were thinking that demonstration was going to point out the fallibility of that whole exercise. But look at that. Lo and behold. One layer, too.
That's all it takes sometimes. One layer. And you can deceive the Secret Service.
All these people buying this expensive toilet paper. One ply is all you need, babies. Come on.
Yeah. Disagree.
Oh, no, okay. That's different. Sorry. Different ball game.
All right. Well, this is something we're going to keep our eyes on. I don't know what is going to come from it. I mean, maybe we'll learn more. Maybe this will just go away in the sands of time and all the weird stories that come out. But let us know if you hear anything. We'll be right back with more strange news.
And we're back with another piece of strange news. This one also involving fraud of a type. Definitely fraud. Certainly not as clandestine an operation as Matt, your story. That is absolutely bonkers. I hope that with more information comes out about that one. This one involves a deception of the COVID-19 variety. I've mentioned that I recently came back from a lovely trip to Germany, and they take vaccination there very, 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 very seriously. Every time I presented my tattered little vax card at a bar, a venue, or whatever, I was regarded with suspicion and annoyance every single time. So I dreaded having to do it because my cards have been in my wallet for since I got it. So it's super dog-eared, and you can barely even see the text on it anymore. I do have a photo, but it's just like easier to pull out the card. And then I have my booster on a separate card that I also had and I was carrying around with me. I don't have that in my wallet, so that one's a little crisper. But it just has these little stickers on it. And if you'll notice on your card, Americans, there is something, the thing that makes it legit-ish, if you wanted to cross-reference it. Because the card itself, good Lord, how easily forged those could be. You know what I mean? It's just a piece of cardstock with some printing on it. You could easily get that same cardstock and photocopy them or what have you, duplicate, just print them on. You can print directly on cardstock. The only thing that really lends them an air of legitimacy is a set of numbers, the batch numbers for the vaccine. It tells you the type of vaccine that it was and the batch numbers. And I got the Pfizer vaccine, and in Germany the Pfizer vaccine is king as well. So that I was fine. But in Germany they have these passes, and there's different apps. It's not like all unified into one single system, but you upload your documents, which are ultimately these cards to start with. You upload them, and they're verified through the cloud, through these organizations that verify and cross-reference those batch numbers, and then it's converted into a QR code and a little digital pass that you can present. And if you really mean business, like at the airport or for international travel or whatever it might be, they can scan it and cross-reference it again. But it all starts with a crappy little card, much like what we have here, but we have not taken the effort to go to the next step. I was told that you could do that as a tourist, but then it turns out you have to already be having plans to move there. And one thing I learned about the German people is every time you're asked a question, I was told this by some friends there that live there. They're English, but they've lived there in Berlin for a long time, that anytime a German government worker or employee or bureaucrat asks you a question, they're just trying to tick a box in their mind, a box of the mind. So if they're asking you if you're planning on moving here, they're sort of tipping their hand at the answer that they need in order for you to proceed conveniently. Because who am I to say? Who are they to say I'm not moving here? Maybe I'm making plans to move here. I don't have a job yet, but all I had to do was say yes. But since I said no, I was not able to get the thing. It happened similarly when I wanted to visit a church. They asked me if I was coming to pray, and I said no, and they told me I had to leave. But if I had said yes, I could have gone into the church. Point being, a dude in Germany, a 61-year-old man in the Saxony state of Germany, has taken this box-ticking situation to the 11th degree. A guy whose name has been held back because Germany has privacy laws. I guess this is HIPAA-related, similar to what we have with HIPAA regulations, where you can't disclose people's medical information or their identities associated with it, because this is ultimately a medical issue. He has been vaccinated over 87 times, roughly 87 times. Why did he do that thing, you might ask? Well, according to Tino Moritz and Tobias Wolf, who reported for the Freie Presse there in Germany, it was all in the service of making a buck or making a euro. He sort of did the equivalent of what we might call doctor shopping, where you go to different clinics and different doctors with the intention of getting pain medication or some controlled substance, right? But he's doing it in order to get these vax cards with the legitimate dose information, the batches, and then he sells those cards to other people and forges a new name onto it, because it's just got your name printed on it. There's no, it's got your birthday, and it doesn't have any other identifying information. The important information on the card really is just the name that you can then match to an identification. That's how they were doing it at every place that I went to. And then that vax batch number. So this dude, whose name we do not know, nor his profession, finally, it's like a relatively small part of the country. He was doing this in, like I said, the Saxony and Saxony-Anhalt regions of Germany, in eastern Germany. And they're not super big, and they're a little bit rural-ish. There's some cities, like I think Leipzig is in Saxony, and there's certainly some more metro areas. But in general, you're not going to be able to get vaxxed over 87 times and not have to go to the same spot twice. So, surprise, surprise, that is how he got caught. Forbes has this to say, which I thought was cute. The scam may have worked, the first 80 or so times, but eventually staff members recognized the man, caught on, and notified the police when the man tried to get vaccinated in Eilenberg, a second time on a subsequent day, the very next day. This wasn't surprising, because if you're going to get anything over 80 times in a region, chances are you'll eventually have to make repeat visits to the same location, unless you're talking about a vanilla latte at Starbucks. The German Red Cross is the organization that is now pressing charges against this man. So there you go. He's essentially getting the shot for real way too many times so that he can then forge a new person's name onto it. He would actually come. It's a little confusing. The details are a little weird. Like it sounded like he would come with a vax card already, with the name left blank or so. I don't know. It's a little odd. The details are still coming out. But the thing that not many people are talking about, and there's really no information about yet because of the privacy stuff, is like, what does this do to you? What does it do to a person? But, there's so much outcry, obviously enough that in Germany, people don't want to get the vax. They'd rather pay some weird old dude.
Yeah, that's what I was asking off air, too. Yeah. That's what I was really concerned about. He could accidentally help medicine.
That's the thing, right?
Of medicine. So there might be some positive to come in. Yeah, sorry, just wanted to interject.
No, you're totally right, Ben. And we it's very perplexing. And no one's talking about it because there's no way of knowing. And Elliot and Ricky over at Internet Today, they hit me to this story. If you haven't checked out that page, I highly recommend it on YouTube. Weekly weird news. They cover some really interesting topics and some great headlines. And the question they pose is like, let's not arrest this man. Like, let's get him to the lab immediately. Like, let's figure out what is this doing? Because again, people are still super gun shy about the vaccine. Obviously, in Germany, enough that people would rather pay a dude to get the jab for them than rather than just get it themselves, because it really is prohibitively difficult to exist in Germany. And there was one place that I went to that wouldn't even take my little dinky American vax card, so I couldn't even go. I wonder if this is going to end up being a different kind of news story where it's like, man grows additional arm out of his, shoulder blade due to 87th vaccine dose. But he's obviously okay. And I think the thing, what is it that you think freaks people out about vaccines, guys? If there's any one thing that jumps out at you, what is it? The fact that these were turned around so quickly and maybe the after effects are not fully known? But it feels like there are other vaccines people are freaked out about too. But I think that detail for this one might be the prime mover. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would just, fellow conspiracy realist, to answer that question, I would love for you to check out our previous episodes where we talk about that in depth when the coronavirus hit and then when vaccination hit. There's rarely ever going to be one single reason.
And also, there's a lot of boogeyman tactics wrapped up in vaccines in general, where there'll be a study that indicates that there's some ill effect of a vaccine, and then all of a sudden that gets blown out of proportion and, read as gospel when there's just as many studies debunking said, side effect, like with autism or whatever it might be. Like maybe there was like 1 in, 5 million cases somebody got autism, but it wasn't necessarily directly correlated or tied to the vaccine itself. But it's just a very interesting thing. And yet this guy is like taking it for the team, 87 times. I hope he's okay. It just seems like, they also, even people that are like a little wary of vaccines and their kids, they feel strongly about, at the very least, just like spreading them out, getting them like over a period of time, or getting just a few in a visit, as opposed to like just, banking them up in one sitting. Obviously, this guy didn't get 87 shots in one go, but it can't have been over an insanely long amount of time. It doesn't really say in the reporting yet exactly when he started this scam. But I'd be interested to know that as well. I
was just thinking, I wonder how this dude's left arm feels. Because
can you imagine?
I'm having like weird phantom pain right now from my injection site. And like, I'm imagining it happening 85 more times.
Put it in my toe, put it between my toes.
No.
Get me once real good in the pits. Yeah, maybe they have that.
Oh no,
maybe they have that flexibility. But yeah, I stand with what I said earlier. I think the best that can come from this is to use it as an opportunity to see whether there are any damaging effects from being incredibly cartoonishly over vaccinated. Take a shot, everyone.
Yeah, and is this guy just perma-vaccinated now? Is there going to come a time where he's going to need to get boosted again? I'm also a little foggy on that in general. For example, one of the venues that I went to in Leipzig, they almost didn't let me in because in Europe, the dates are written day, month, year. And they were reading my card as if when I got the dose was in December of last year, but it was actually in August of this year, whatever it was. And they almost didn't let me in. And then I like walked away like dejected, like sad Charlie Brown style, until I realized, oh no, I definitely got it more recently than that. But they were saying if it's over a year, then it's no good anymore. And you have to have a negative test. So is that the standard that like you can get boosted once a year?
That's what it's turning into.
That's what it's turning into. But it's not like codified. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. Like people aren't getting flu shot boosters every year, but they offer them every year, right? That's the thing. Every year they get the free flu shot booster.
Theoretically, we should all be getting flu shot boosters every year. I mean, theoretically, it sure is nice for a bottom line for a company that manufactures vaccines.
Well, that's a good point. And that's a whole nother angle to it. Is there some back scratching going on with the company? But they're also offered for free. So how does that work? Like, who's getting paid and how? Is it all just government subsidized? It has to be at a discount to some degree.
Uncle Sam will get that to you.
He'll get it to you with that 5G. Anyway, an interesting one, and I hope the guy's okay. And I think you're right, Ben. He would be a boon to science. So let's not put him in the slammer. Let's get him in the clinic and check him out and see how all these doses have affected his health, and then keep an eye on him for years to come. He could really answer some questions, long term for this kind of stuff. But in the meantime, let's get to a break, and then we'll be back with one more piece of strange news.
And we have returned. I'd like to introduce everyone who isn't already familiar with this to a concept known as Chekhov's gun. The wonderful, amazing writer Chekhov famously said that if you have a gun in the first scene of a play, it needs to go off by the end of the play. And we pulled a bit of a Chekhov's gun with you today, fellow conspiracy realists. We talked about alien pregnancies. For anyone who was around during a certain time in American history, you may remember excellent rags like the National Enquirer, Weekly World News, Bat Boy comes back, you know what I mean? Abraham Lincoln's gay Bigfoot lover discovered in Boise, those kind of headlines. And some of the best fact-checking in the world, I'm sure. Nobody bothered to dig into that. We're having fun today. Something hit the news recently. Last week this came about, and it caught my eye, and I knew I couldn't be alone. The headline reads something like this: 1,500 pages of UFO-related research were just declassified as part of a FOIA request. Now, for anybody else who has been closely following disclosure, the idea that governments have knowledge of extraterrestrials and will eventually release that knowledge, it's been an exciting couple of years. We have a lot of ongoing investigations that we're keeping eyes on. Full disclosure about disclosure, I can't say too much right now, but there's a kick-ass show about UAPs that is coming your way this year. If you want to hear more, then stay tuned because it's still in the early stages, but it'll be worth it. It's legit. And that's what I think bothered a lot of people on the more skeptical side. The fact that there is legitimate investigation into UAPs, and not all of those UAPs can be explained. And they do appear in some cases to be capable of troubling things, right angle flights, transmedium flights going through space, air, and water as one craft in one fell swoop, which is something that humans can't build yet, so far as we know officially. But what about the stories of alien abductions? What about the stories of bizarre burns, strange medical maladies, unaccounted for lapses in time, or unaccounted for pregnancies? That's right. The U.S. Sun, actually, who they're not often thought of as a super high-end source, but the U.S. Sun successfully filed a FOIA request with the Pentagon, and they released 1,574 pages of what you could only call real-life X-Files. And this was a 4-year-long battle to get this stuff released. Originally, on December 18th, 2017, they asked Uncle Sam for all files, reports, or video files related to ATIP, Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, which we mentioned earlier. And the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, finally came back with a mother lode. And the stuff that really freaked people out was the reports of exposure to what they're calling anomalous vehicles. 42 cases from medical files, 300 unpublished cases where people have been injured after encountering these things. This is strange because there's a bunch of stuff here. I haven't read all of it yet myself, but I've read a good bit of what is out there now, and you can find the report. The report that will be the most interesting to you folks, if you share our fascination with this, is going to be you're going to find it via the Black Vault by Greenwald. This report is called Anomalous Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human Biological Tissues. Fascinating stuff. And as far as government titles go, that is an abnormal page turner. So a lot of stuff has been held back due to privacy concerns in the FOIA release, which is not unusual. But to be clear, again, this is a government publication which is making mention of not just injuries, brain damage, nerve damage, headaches, etc., but an actual unaccounted for pregnancy. So someone is officially on record now saying that they were abducted, and then when they returned to Earth, and then later they had a child. They were obviously this is someone with ovaries. They got impregnated and they were bearing a child. They don't specifically say it was an alien. They say unaccounted for pregnancy. This went viral pretty much immediately. But at this, did you guys hear about this before we were talking about it? I'm sure.
Not really.
I didn't hear about the unaccounted for pregnancy. No.
Okay. So we can't account for it either. So we're not involved, to be clear. So I saw this just proliferate across the internet and in UFO circles and enthusiast forums and so on. But there are a couple of myths we need to bust about this. And it's something that I had mentioned in our notes earlier. First, this is not maybe all it's cracked up to be. A lot of people are portraying this as though the U.S. government itself is saying, wow, look at this. We've got a half human, half alien hybrid. They're not saying this. When they released this stuff to the sun, they were releasing things that they had received, not necessarily things that they had investigated and created themselves. So as much of a bummer as it is to say this, it is in the nature of our show to admit that we found where they were receiving a lot of this information from, and it doesn't bear up to serious scrutiny nor to serious investigation. Some of it does. Like MUFON does a lot of good work and they try not to jump to conclusions. A lot of these are reports from MUFON that were sent to Uncle Sam. And then additionally, people have perhaps, in a case of wishful thinking, have mistaken this for a cosign on the part of the Pentagon or ATIP. It's not. MUFON, as we talked about before, is a civilian nonprofit group. They study UFO sightings. The report that mentions this pregnancy is taking stuff from other non-governmental bodies reporting. And even the MUFON report, their conclusion is there's enough evidence to support a hypothesis that some advanced systems are already deployed and opaque to full U.S. understandings. It's not a Pentagon report. That's the MUFON report that got sent to the Pentagon. It's very, very, very different. It's like if someone said, hey, stuff they don't want you to know, Ben, Matt, Noel, Doc, Mission Control, send us everything you have on the art of making a vegan quesadilla. And then we sent back a bunch of records and videos, I guess, of us making quesadillas or other people making quesadillas. And in one of those, someone says, I personally believe that I spoke with a vegan quesadilla and it told me that I should be the president of Easter Island or whatever. And then, if you ran a headline as an unscrupulous journalist and you said, Ben, Matt, and Noel claim vegan quesadillas, speak to them and have told them to take, to become the rulers of Easter Island, a lot of people just read that headline and go, oh, wow, that's wild. Actually, most people would read that headline and go, what is stuff they don't want you to know, which we're fine with. But that's what I'm saying is you see how easily these things get conflated. It's important to establish the truth of the matter.
I want to read that graphic novel.
Sound like, yeah, I know. I want to see the Pixar film based on this analogy.
Oh man, yeah, like it's a bummer because just for a millisecond, and I can't be alone in this. Just for a millisecond, I thought, "Oh snap! Here it comes! Here it comes! I hope they get a picture of the baby." But at this point, there are numerous privacy laws that prevent that kind of stuff from being posted. But then also, it's just like witness accounts, or it's just people saying certain things, which is not near the same thing as an official government document saying that. Because if there was ever that level of disclosure, then you can bet your bottom dollar it would be huge in the news cycle for quite some time. Because it would be, first off, not just proof that there was an intelligent organism conducting abductions, and there's no proof of that yet either, but it would also be proof that whatever it was capable of reproducing with human beings through some form or fashion. And, if that's the case, then that challenges almost every basis of philosophy, religion, and science as humans know it today. So I'm still holding out for that one. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, we have DNA tests, right? If there was truly an unaccounted for pregnancy, depending on the year that it, allegedly occurred, you could test the DNA of the child and figure out, is there non-human DNA in there? If not, who is the father? Because we can figure that out now.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's a great point, Matt, because that would be the next step, right? Otherwise, you're just throwing in a phrase, unaccounted for pregnancy, and just watching people go nuts over it. But there's no follow-up. Is it possible that there is some secret alien baby somewhere hidden, in the depths of a government outpost? It's possible, but a lot of things are possible. But there's a world of difference between possible and plausible. You know what I mean? And right now, this is just not plausible.
Yeah. But if the hybrids were real, how so cool would that be?
Cool is the word you choose?
Yeah, man. There have been, I don't know. There have been so many conspiracies that have been light proven, proven diet proven, throughout the years. And like alien human hybrids, man, if that thing got at least slightly proven, it would be a good day in this office. Scully would be happy.
Scully would be happy. She's off stage now because I gotta film some other stuff. That sounds sketchy, but no, it's nothing untoward. That's almost where we have to leave it today, but it's important, especially when you're reading about stuff like this. It's so important to dig a little deeper and to figure out what's going on that informs those headlines. Because we have to realize, especially in the age of online journalism, headlines are carefully crafted in order to get you to click such that your eyes will also see ads. And shout out to Eric on Facebook, I think it was, who hipped us and hipped me to this. Now there is a program, I think through MoviePass, that is tracking your eye movements and figuring out whether or not you're actually watching ads, which we talked about when we were, we kind of cynically predicted it, but it's no longer a prediction. It is going to happen. So I don't know what to do. Get fake eyes. I'm not sure how you block this.
And if you're not looking, there'll be a shrill beep that will sound, and you won't get your merits.
Play that "Bird's the Word" song, and you can't fast forward.
Oh no! There's only one way to do it. You take your phone and you throw it,
Sandberg style. Throw it on the ground.
Yeah. I'm not a part of your system.
That's not my dad. That's a phone.
I don't need your handout.
Buy me hot dog, man. Oh, man. Sandberg, Lonely Island, all of them. They were great. So now we know a little bit of the difference. There's a little bit of a cold water experience for a lot of true believers, but it's not the end of the story. I'm going to finish reading as much as I can about this. It is one of the top priorities now in the world of UAP literature, and I'd love to hear from anybody who is also reading about this. Let us know what you have found. Let us know if after getting 100 COVID vaccinations, you get to meet the alien hybrid baby. Let us know your tips for faking being a federal agent. Might want to hit us on Signal for that one. I'm kidding. That's compromised too. Might want to use Telegram. I'm kidding. That's compromised too. Might want to just, think about it or be very careful how you couch that email. But that's it for us today. We're going to be back with more strange news. Before we end today's show, we want to pause. Very special announcement from Codename Doc Holliday. She says, "Happy birthday to the ground." Okay. So that's it for us, folks. We can't wait to hear your thoughts. As always, you're the most important part of the show, so why not take part with us? We try to be easy to find online.
That's right. You can find us online on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube at the handle Conspiracy Stuff. On Instagram, we're at Conspiracy Stuff Show.
Yeah. Sorry, Lonely Island. There's so many Lonely Island songs playing in my head right now as I'm attempting to speak on mic. So let's just say it. If you don't want to use social media, why not give us a call? Our number is 1-833-STDWYTK. When you call in, give yourself a cool nickname. Let us know if we can use that name and your message on one of our listener mail episodes. And then you got 3 minutes. Say whatever you want. We do ask that if you've got more to say than can fit in that 3-minute voicemail message, instead send us a good old-fashioned email. We are
conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.